Good morning. It's time now for Around the County here on WBRT Radio. It's made possible by our friends at Joe Hill's Power Sports and Outdoor Equipment. With the show, here's Judge-Executive Tim Hutchins. Good morning, Judge.
Well, how you doing today? I want to thank Joe Hill's Power Sports right out of the gate for sponsoring this show and making it possible to, again, our goal is to get the news or the information or just anything anybody wants to talk about countywide. It could be government related or not. We got an open mic and talk about just anything anybody wants to talk about. So 348-2222 is the number they can call or text to that number. And today we have a guest with us, Zach Eberson with Salt River RECC, I guess is what we always call it, Salt River RECC. And I've asked Mr. Tim Sharp, is I guess what's his title?
President and CEO.
President and CEO, and then he was tied up, so he sent Mr. Zach, because he said he's better than he is anyway. And anybody wants to ask any questions with Zach, Salt River, and they have a very good relationship with the community, and because they represent, and he can get into all these details later, but the fiscal court, Nelson Fiscal Court, and the Barstow Industrial Development Corporation, and many other entities. Salt River is very good. We've had very good partnerships for many, many years, and they do a lot of sponsorships with a lot of different events, and they're being a very good citizen for the community. So, Zach, you want to talk, introduce you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, like you said, community, I think, is at the heart of the electric cooperative model. Roth, you and I have talked about this before, but, cooperatives were born out of the communities. There was a need in the community.
What is a cooperative? I think the audience may not even know what a cooperative is.
So unlike, people, let's say LG&E or KU, Barstow City, the cooperative is owned by the people they serve. So the members who receive the power own a share of the cooperative. So, we go back 90 years this year it was. In 1935, you talk about, 90% of people in this area of the country, rural areas, didn't have power. You had to go into the Louisvilles, the Lexingtons, those kind of places to get power. The dense city areas. And so in 1937, 5 people came together here in downtown Bardstown, as a matter of fact, in April of 1937, and started Salt River RECC to help the community, to get them the power to the farms and the barns and the houses, and to help. At a conference recently, people were talking about the word, it was drudgery. That was the word people used, to help them live a better life and to help have them, live richer and fuller lives. And, 88 years now we've been here, and every day, technological advances through the years, working every day to make this a great place to live and work in. And we certainly take that to heart to help the community out.
Well, that's good to know. I mean, Salt River Cooperative, you hear that word all the time, and, you just, by passing, you take it for granted, and as the new generations come on, we all take it for granted. Sort of, you get in the rural areas, and just like the water districts and North Nelson Water District, for example, they've been a vital part of that end of the community, expanding and providing water service. And then you try to do joint ventures together. We got a big water project going on now, through Louisville Water, through North Nelson, City of Bardstown. It's going to be a very, very big impact on Nelson County as a whole. I've told them before that I think that's one of the best, probably one of the best ventures that we've had in this community for long term. And then, of course, Salt River, and of course, you've got KU in the county, and the city of Barstow owns their own utility as far as electrical, and the ever evolving and changing. I just read an article, matter of fact, this morning. It might have been 3 or 4 days old, because I'm usually behind, but talking about all the energy needs of the country and this AI and what it's taking and what it's drawing. Texas is going through problems. Some of the other Pennsylvania's going through problems, and you have these brownouts in California and so on, and you just read it and you don't really understand it. I think most people don't until it hits home, and then you'll say, what the heck's going on here? So we've got to make sure that we've got the power sources, and these AI, artificial intelligence, I guess, is what buildings going over all over the country. I talked to Mr. Sharp probably 2 or 3 months ago. I had a AI group contacted us and talking about wanting to move in this county, and just listened to them talk, and he said if they came in, that one, and I don't know how many buildings it was now, but it would have took 1/4 of the whole grid of Salt River. He said they could do it based on right now the needs today and the supply today, but he said they could do it, but it would take 1/4 of their whole supply.
These are what, data centers?
Yep, the data centers. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. You look at those articles and how much usage that those facilities have, because as we're seeing nowadays, people are using AI in almost every aspect of their life in some way, shape, or form. And you talked about the brownouts and the blackouts and so on and so forth. There's I know me and you talked about it before. There is a great article that our friends at the Kentucky Electric Cooperative, our statewide association, did. I think it was last year or so, that talks about this issue and talks about the efforts of electric cooperatives across, not even just here in Kentucky, but across the nation as well. We call it an all of the above approach to energy supply. The coal, obviously in Kentucky, that's been huge for years, but coal, natural gas, solar, hydro, wind, taking all of these approaches to help meet the demand that we're seeing on the grid. And you're right, it's so important.
I think Oldham County's going through it now, maybe even Shelby County, and there's definitely a lot of, I'm going to say, outcry, or people that's really opposing, I don't know if it's the location or the housing or whatever, but it does make a difference when you look at long-term versus short-term. We want to supply the needs of the community, and as the elected officials, in my position, you try to, we don't own the electric companies or co-ops, but we definitely want to have a good relationship with all of them, because Salt River's been a good partner with Bardstown Industrial Development Corporation, which is BIDC, for the audience to hear. That's been a good joint venture for many years, the city and the county, and then we've got different people on the boards, and they've done a really good job over many, many years. We've had some changeover, and I've talked to some people this morning, had a meeting with the mayor about some other ventures we've got possibly coming, and so you got to be open to new ideas, and these industrial parks, and like you said, the coal and some of the natural gas coming on board, but you have to meet those needs. And I think, and you probably get into this a little bit more, Zach, first of all, I want to say thank you to Salt River and BIDC, the board. I know everybody wants to thank y'all for being a partnership. We're working on probably, our industrial park. We started out on industrial parks many years ago with, I think, the Wilson Park. The city started back, I don't know, let's say maybe 30, 40, 50 years ago. And then they expanded up into where the Guthrie Center is and expanded that park. And so about 20 years ago, a little bit over 20 years ago, so the county wasn't involved in it, and even though they had the BIDC board, the county wasn't involved in the land ownership. So the fiscal court then, Judge Watts and the fiscal court, which I was on, and now we took office in '94, we decided to, somewhere around 2000, I think, we bought the land where the new industrial park is, off Parkway Drive, and where Bardstown Bourbon, and you got Flowers Food and all that. So we took and of course Salt River was a very big partner in that, and they have some money they have collateralized, or they set aside as a fund to help finance these deals with a very small amount of interest to help create jobs. It creates electric for you guys and jobs, and it's a big, broad picture. So without Salt River, we probably couldn't have done that project. So, fast forward, we've got, I think there's three tracks left out there, and 3 tracks left that we've got options on 2 out of the 3, and maybe the third one. So that park will be pretty much completely done, and we're going to take that capital. Our goal is with the fiscal court, we've already got some preliminary agreements in the city, and we're looking at, and we've got some options on some more land for a bigger industrial park. I can't elaborate too much on it. A lot of NDAs involved in it, but we are looking and planning and expanding. And I've worked real hard since I've been here 2.5 years, and we've got some options on some land and things, and it will open up a lot more land for some new factories and industries. And Salt River is a big part of that.
Because if you don't have the juice, the electricity for them,
Right.
you got to have water and sewer. Very important too, but got to keep the lights on.
Yeah, the power is very important, and something you said as well. That obviously we always want to take care of our members first and in the community, but it's also about what's the other aspect of that community is the jobs and the growth and the other things that make up a town and a community of people. And like Judge said, we're very dedicated to making sure that not only our members are taken care of, but that they have places to go and to work. And that's another core part of it. I had somebody tell me recently, talking about economic development. They said, "Man, you all in Kentucky and Salt River and East Kentucky, y'all do a great job with economic development." And it's true. It's paid off a lot.
Yeah, we've got to go ahead, bro.
Well, I know that we talk Salt River, and we're here today talking Nelson County, but what Salt River's been able to help with in Bullitt County is nothing short of phenomenal.
Yeah.
With the growth in our neighboring county, which is a lot of jobs for Nelson County.
Yeah, you think about 30 years ago, and you wouldn't have ever thought about some of the stuff you see out that way. But it's taken the work of a lot of people over a lot of years to bring those things to fruition, and we're just happy to be part of that and help the community.
You're going to make me say Nicky Raper's name, I know. And I know he serves on one or two of the boards.
He's on Nicky's on the NCTA board, and he's on several boards over the years. And then he was on the North Nelson Water District board when they worked on this water expansion deal. And because Nicky and I go back a long ways, and he sat in as a judge for about 6 months in filling in, and he's had a lot of connections all over the state. And his expertise and knowledge is, and I tell Nicky it all the time, and it's very instrumental in what he's helped do in the community. Actually, in the private sector, and with Salt River, and for Tim Sharp and Larry Hicks before him, to allow him to do his flexibility. What he could do is, and really it helps economic development as a whole. I don't think, I know I don't as a Nelson County judge, and I would say I would agree, I would reach out to say our fiscal court, and I believe even the city and the mayor and most of, we don't want a huge company coming in like a Toyota in Georgia or what's going on in Glendale to impact the quality of life in this county. We want some smart growth, and we want smaller versions of that, and try to create so many jobs a year, and helps the families. And as people bring their kids, we probably got over 1,000. I'm saying we got 4 high schools. It may be even more than that, probably over 1,000 kids, and I say kids, but young adults that graduate from high schools each year. And you just take that, and as you just figure that in your formula, over 1,000 kids, and they going off to college and jobs, and I don't want my kids living up in New York or Spain or wherever. If they have to, if they choose to do, that's one thing. But I prefer mine to be around me, and I don't know where you're from, but. So you got to kind of think that as an example in our quality of life here. And we just had the interviews I did with the Dennis Quaid show that was in the Kentucky Standard the other day. If you've seen it, I forgot what the name of the show's going to be, and they're going to be all over.
Viewpoint, I think, isn't it?
What is the name of it?
I think it's Viewpoint.
Viewpoint, yeah. And when they contacted me about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago, and then I got Stacy on board with the tourism and some of our team, and we said, and I've spoke with these people quite a bit, and then we agreed to help fund some of it, and it's we're going to get, when that thing hits the market, when they do this, they're going to show Nelson County as a whole. That's going to be very impressive. There's no doubt about it. So, it's like I say, when I say global, everything, you got to tie everything together, and everybody's not going to agree on everything, but we've had, I think, overall Nelson County, and that's why everybody loves Nelson County and Bardstown and all the surrounding, and Bloomfield, New Haven. We've done a tremendous amount of work in all these cities with our different divisions and workforce, and it's just pretty neat and unique if you just sit down and think about it. We're kind of the leader, I'm gonna say, that most people love here. And so anyway, getting back to the Zach, I don't want to take all of your show time, but how many counties do y'all represent?
So we represent, you think about the 4 main counties that we do represent. Obviously, you said Nelson County, Bullitt County, Spencer County, and Washington County as well. But we also represent other parts, with 10 total. Anderson County, Mercer County. I'm trying to think of the other ones around here. A little bit of LaRue County, places like
Washington.
that. Yeah, Washington County, obviously. We touch some other parts of some counties around us.
Do you go into Marion at all?
We do go into Marion a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Yep, go into there. All told, we have over 57,000 members that we serve. So one of, not the largest, but one of the larger electric cooperatives in the state. And a lot of that, obviously, you talked about the growth in Bullitt County all those years ago. We have, most of our members are in Bullitt County, around 26,000 of them, with Nelson County right behind them as well. And, and we're lucky as well, talking about cooperatives. I'll get a little bit more into it. But the board, the people who make the decisions for the cooperative are elected by the members, the people we serve. We're all about, the democratic process. And so we just had an annual meeting about a month ago or so. It feels like it's been longer than that, but we just had the annual meeting about a month ago and re-elected 2 of our directors, Daryl Tingle from Washington County and David Stevens in Spencer County, to another 4-year term. But it's very important to us that the members are represented by people,
who else
members
on the
just
board?
like
Let's
them.
go ahead and elaborate on the board.
Yeah,
If you want to
absolutely.
tell us who's on the board.
So here in Nelson County, we have Linda West. She's been on the board, one of the longest of the current members. We have Linda West. We have John Hutchins, who worked for East Kentucky Power for a long time. We have in Bullitt County, Joe Osborne.
George.
Yeah, I got George Maddox. Yeah, I love those guys. And in Spencer County, we have David Stevens, and in Washington County, Daryl Tingle. So all told, we have 6 board members that represent the members on our board. And again, it's all about that member control. And talking earlier about what sets a cooperative apart from, a KU or any of those other ones. You have people who represent you directly. That you could call them and take your concerns to them, or things that you're curious about, and they're always there to listen to that and take it to the board. And another thing as well is everybody hears about capital credits. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, but I always forget what they're termed, but I always like it when the envelope arrives.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So, we think about for an investor-owned utility like an LG&E or KU, the shareholders are the one who at the end of the year, they get those dividend checks, depending on how the business did in that year. Salt River is like that in the sense that at the end of the year, once all conditions are met and financial conditions allow it, the members get the excess money back. Salt River can't make any money. At the end of the year, we can't say, well, we made a profit of X amount at the end of the year. No, all that money gets put to the side and it's going to get returned to the members, which is, one of the very unique things about cooperatives that I like. And I do hear that from people from time to time about, that, you all, are about making money and all that. No, we're about taking care of our members and making sure that they get the safe, reliable, and affordable power that our founders set up for them, almost 90 years ago. And so that money at the end of the year gets put aside and we return those in the form of capital credits. Matter of fact, I was doing some digging in our archives the other day. We were one of the very first cooperatives in the early 1950s to return capital credits to members, and we've been doing that for years. I mean, you talked about Larry Hicks earlier. He was instrumental in making sure that every year our members got back something for being a member of the cooperative. Just a small part of the cooperative difference.
And you go back before, I guess, and I knew some of them, but Larry Hicks, which he was a personal friend of mine, and he was very, very involved in the community and so many different boards, and his leadership and knowledge, and he was so, he just had a mind that was, it would just pass you up, and
I always like
and it's a shame that, he had to pass away at a young age in his life with whatever disease he had. But he was really, in my time, he's the one I can remember that really took Salt River and the community and all the credits and the partnerships, that he really had a vision to do that, BIDC and so on. And then as time evolved, and then of course Tim came on, and Nikki Raper was a big part of that. But I don't want to leave out all the board members. There's been a very solid, good board there for many, many years, and several of them that I know. John Hutchins is actually a distant cousin of mine, and let's go back to Jimmy Longmire, a good friend of mine, and I had to bring his name up on here because, he still got the first penny he ever made, and I want to make sure he hears that today.
There you go.
But the leadership there has been really good, and then I think again moving forward and the employees, and y'all run a good, clean, tight ship, and when you get that electric bill, and people tend to, every time you see an electric bill, most people don't like bills when they come in, unless it's a green dollar bill, right?
That's right.
So, but if you do your homework, then not just electric and water, but since we're talking about electric today, the state of Kentucky is one of the lowest as far as cost of electricity to the citizens. And it may be the lowest, I don't know, but they're very low in the cost of electricity in Nelson County on top of that, because of what we just been discussing in the last 30 minutes.
And you talk about, the rates around the state. Last time I looked at the sheet, the Kentucky Public Service Commission, who governs and regulates all the electric cooperatives and the investor-owned ones, of them, there was a sheet that I had in my files, and I wish I could find it, but Salt River was one of, if not the lowest, in terms of rate, the lowest rate of any regulated utility in the state of Kentucky. And so, like you said, just kind of putting that in perspective here in Nelson County and the surrounding areas.
It makes a difference, and you don't realize it on a day-to-day unless you really keep up with stuff. The average citizen's working and raising their families and kids and paying their bills, and you see those bills come in when you have these high temperatures, and it makes a difference. But when you really study it long term, and that's my fear, is if you read like I read this morning, and all these AIs and forcing pressure on these utility companies, and the dollar don't get stretched but so much before it breaks apart. And as far as government involvement in the state and the federal government incentivizing all this stuff, it makes you got to be extremely, extremely careful. So that's what I want to make sure we got the right leadership there that really helps our community and, of course, the surrounding communities. But when you start having these brownouts and blackouts, it wouldn't be good.
Let's take a break. You want to again acknowledge our sponsors, then we'll hear from them. Our sponsors today on Around the County, Joe Hill's Outdoor Power Equipment. We'll be back with more in just a moment.
Gear up for a spring at Joe Hill's Power Sports and Equipment in Bardstown. We can meet all your needs. Save time with a zero-turn mower with brands such as Exmark, Kubota, Wright, Ferris, Hustler, and Steel. Starting as low as $3,799, 0% financing options are available. Don't forget Steel handheld power equipment. Starts easier, works smarter, finishes faster with America's #1 selling brand. Steel, available at Joe Hill's, powering your passion for over 70 years. Joe Hill's Power Sports and Equipment on the 245 bypass at Salem Drive.
And we are back with Around the County with Judge-Executive Tim Hutchins, brought to you by Joe Hill Power Sports and Outdoor Equipment. Zach Epperson from Salt River Electric is guest today. We have a text. Would you like me to
go ahead.
Get to it now? So y'all listen, or you listen up. I've got to read it because it's rather lengthy.
That looks like a long one. Is that what I'm looking at?
Yes, sir, it is. This is in regards to an approved commercial pole barn being built in the backyard at 303 Cathedral Manor. According to zoning and planning, the residential lot somehow zoned commercial back in '78 and is set dormant and undeveloped for 46 years. With the last sale of the property, a commercial pole barn's been approved and is now being built, sandwiched in and surrounded by residential homes, when we did reach out to zoning and planning, they said all permits were approved by them simply because it was commercial. There was no notice in the neighborhood of a commercial development being built less than 50 feet of residential homes. The end result is a 2.5-story commercial pole barn, higher than any structure in the area, now overpowering every home around it, and it will house commercial equipment for a local business. According to zoning and planning, the structure was given an open approval as zoned commercial, and is also being allowed to add additional office space with occupancy above it. This is a building site that you have to see it to understand. It's a shared driveway with a neighbor next door. It empties out onto Cathedral Manor in one of the busiest stretches of the road where there's been much congestion. It's going to be difficult for that small section of the highway to safely handle the equipment when equipment is parked in front of the business. I think that's all of it. Let's see, there may be more. So that's a lengthy one.
Was there a question to it, or is this the open comment about
it's
it?
just a comment, and I don't see the. It ends. It says also the equipment could be blocking visibility of a stop sign. So there's really no question there, because I think they're just describing what they've learned and why. Why it's there and how it was there, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's in I think that's in the city limits, right? Cathedral Manor would be in the city limits.
I believe so.
Yeah. But I will just, whoever it is, I'll ride by there and look at it. And the planning and zoning, if it was done in the late 70s, I can't say a whole lot about it because I don't know. I don't want to answer something here and give wrong information, but I will ride by there and look at it. Now, as far as visibility goes and blocking stop signs and traffic control and all that, now that would be of course, the city, actually the city council, and then their administration, and then the city police. I mean, I think they would be definitely the ones who would be monitoring that. But I can't really answer. I don't know anything about it.
I don't believe it indicated that the building was the obstruction visual. Is if they parked stuff out on the parking lot. So I mean that.
Yeah. I don't know anything about the footprint of it or anything. I don't know. I really don't know anything about it. It's the first I've heard of it. So, but I will drive by there when I leave here and put my eyes on it and see. But I feel pretty confident the planning and zoning followed their. If it was, and that was in the late 70s, planning and zoning started, I think initially started in 72, and then the planning and zoning full-blown in 74. So that would have happened, and maybe it was a grandfather clause in it. I don't know. I really don't know. But
it did indicate that the zoning on it was dated back to the mid to early 70s. So
yeah. There is some of those cases, but it is tough. There's no doubt. I mean, we've got a public hearing tonight on a zoning that's going out on 49 that was requested to be heard at the fiscal court level, and so I put it on the agenda, and the court voted to have it another public hearing, which they had requested. So we're doing that again tonight on this particular one. And I've been around this for a long time. When I was a magistrate, and you got people that don't like planning and zoning because it's regulating your property. You shouldn't be telling me what to do. Then you got some that says, I don't want Roth to have that fence in my backyard, or I don't want that driveway to be gravel, or then, so you could go on and on about it, and nobody wants anything in most cases in and around them, but they want to do what they want to do, and that's just part of human nature, I guess. And so it's tough. It's probably the toughest thing about being involved in the leadership side on the cities and counties, and because you've got to make some decisions, but you can't base them on opinions and popularity. You've got to base them on what the law is. And you get in this gray area. Sometimes we have one at Woodlawn, and I think we're going to be. We all know we have. We did. It's a public record at this point. We got sued over it. The fiscal court got sued over it. We denied it. The magistrates voted it down, and we got a lawsuit pending over it. We did one. Everybody knows Luxco. Then you got some that you vote in. So then you go to the circuit court. I mean, everybody has that option to go forward and get but at the end of the day, it's not about popularity, and that's when it gets tough. Well, I elected you, and you shouldn't be doing this. Well, you got to follow what's in the law, the ordinance, KRS 100, and it's not easy. It's definitely not easy, and I know how it is. I farmed all my life, and people started putting in subdivisions. I said, I don't want no damn subdivisions around me. I've got this farming out here, and I raised thousands of hogs, and over time they start putting them in, and Now, then I started developing, and I put in subdivisions and building houses, so people got to have a place to live. You know, I've got, between me and my wife, we got 8 kids, 5 grandkids, and probably got, let's see, there's 3 more that don't have any kids, so I probably got more coming. And what are you going to do? They got to live somewhere. Does everybody want to live in a subdivision? Maybe not. So we trying to change some of these rules. We did this a month or so ago, where we can have. That's where it gets in the gray area. If you own 10, 15 acres, you want to give an acre to your daughter or child, the way the law is, and we changed the text amendments where you're allowed to do that now as a family member, and our court supported it, and I think it's a good thing. Everybody don't want to live in a subdivision. Everybody don't want to live out on the farm. So, you know, I think our job as leaders is try to be more flexible and have the opportunities for the community, and let supply and demand kind of take care of itself. So, but nobody wants anything in their, you know, I've been living there for years, and I see that 100 acres, but what about when that farmer passes away? Or they have somebody gets a very serious illness, and they need the money and the capital, and they try to sell it. Well, the most they can get out of it is when they usually divide it. And that's kind of, and in most cases as farmers, and I know a lot of them, I've did it, is that's kind of their retirement. All their money goes back in that land. Whenever they decide to sell or pass away and help their kids, that's their retirement. And you don't want to destroy all the farmland. So it's not easy. It's probably the toughest, to be honest with you, probably some of the toughest things we do, because you got to deal with everybody's daily lives and opinions, and that's my serenity. I'm looking at that 100 acres. I've been here, but I moved here. Mm-hmm. I moved here in this place, and I looked at this 100 acres. And this other guy may have had it a long time before you moved there. So you get in these opinions, and it gets a little feisty, I'm going to tell you. But it's just a tough one. So back to that subject, I don't know, in this Cathedral Manor, I'm going to look at it and see him, and I'm pretty confident that they probably had to follow what the rule of law was and what's in the ordinance and the statutes to do it, or it could be challenged, you know. But anyway, let's talk about Salt River and electric. And the good news is, I think I brought him on there today, that maybe the rates are going to stay flat, or maybe we'll see a little downturn. I don't know. Let's give us some good news.
It's always about the time of the year too, right? You said something earlier talking about, you know, when it gets cold outside and the temperatures, and that has the weather always has a real big impact on people's usage. But it did make me think of one thing. I want to make sure I talked about it, because you talk about, if you look at the bill every month and keep track of it, there's the couple line items you always see on there. You talk about the fuel adjustment clause and the environmental surcharge, and that in the winter times especially, we get more questions about that than anything. And they're real simple. The fuel adjustment clause has to do with our power provider. Both of those have to do with our power provider. So we are what you call a distribution co-op, which means we get the power from someone else, and we make sure it goes out there and gets to the farms and the homes and the businesses and so on and so forth. Our generation and transmission co-op that we are part owner of, another cooperative, East Kentucky Power Cooperative, they generate that for us and they give us the power. So it has to do with them helping to recoup the cost of the fluctuating price in coal and natural gas, and having to buy that fuel on the market, which if you pay attention to any kind of market, it fluctuates all the time. So that one has to do with that.
But it has been pretty down.
It has.
Thank goodness.
It has. They've done
since Trump's been in, as far as the gas market, and I tried to follow that quite a bit. It was trending down a little bit before we got there, but it stayed. The total market on the rack price, what we go by, and all that stuff, it has stayed fairly low, which thank goodness, because that affects everybody every day and everything you do.
No, absolutely. And you talked about, even at the federal level, you think about, well, surely something like my local electrical co-op can't be affected by, oh no, we absolutely, it trickles itself down, so when things happen above us, and levels above us, it can absolutely impact us. But yeah, so far, it's been a lot better than it has been in the last, couple of years or so, at least since I've been here. And then we also have the environmental surcharge, and that also kind of goes back to talking about regulations and how we need, how G&T co-ops, that's what we call them, how they go.
What do you call them?
G&Ts, generation and transmission. We
Okay.
call them G&Ts.
Okay.
So that has to do with the environment and okay, well if you're doing all this, if you're getting your power through coal and natural gas and everything else, you've got to also put in scrubbers at your power plants. You've got to do this, helping to recoup and revitalize ash ponds and everything else from all those years ago. And so a lot of regulations go into that, and they've got to pay for equipment to do that, and that gets passed on through the bills. You said something earlier, and I should have said something, but talking about stretching that dollar, when it comes to in our August issue, there's going to be a great graphic in there about it of Kentucky Living Magazine. Shameless plug. I hope everybody, if you're a Salt River member, has that little magazine come in your mailbox every month. It's a great magazine. We try to put a lot of great information in there to help keep people up to date. But there's a graphic in there of a dollar bill, and out of every dollar, 82 cents of it goes to just generating the power that comes to your house. So over 82 cents out of every dollar goes to just generating the power, and the rest of it we got to make do with the rest of it, and that gets segmented off here and there, and for operations and a little bit of margins there for capital credits down at the end of the line. So we try our best to stretch that dollar as much as we can.
But it costs for everything. I mean, it's just like
oh yes,
I tell everybody in the fiscal court, talking about the prices going up. The inflation's just been so much out of control the last 4 or 5 years. It's leveled off a lot right now. If you look at the trend, and will that continue? I don't know. But the last 4 years, we've had a record-breaking inflation. Well, it not only affects you and me buying our food and our eggs that everybody talked about, up to $8. I think they're back down to $3 or whatever it is. But as an example, but Salt River, you have to buy the trucks and the fuel and the insurance that's went up, the workman's comp, all the equipment, same way as the fiscal court. I'll give you just a real quick example. The garbage trucks in about 5 years have almost doubled. They went up to like $100 and something thousand. And a compactor, real quick, because the rear end just went out of it, $80,000 rear end at a compactor that to use at the landfill. They bought a new one about 7, 8, 9 years ago, $750,000. Today it's like $1.2 million just for that big compactor, and we got to have 2 of them. So the rear end went out of the one that was using and came back at another, so about $90,000. So we had to put our backup in there. By law, you got to have a second one. The rear end went out of that damn thing. So, just as an explanation to the general public, and I'm telling you right now, I've tightened the belt. Whatever people make fun of me when I use that word, waste, fraud, and abuse, or whatever they want to call it. But we have tightened everything up as much as we can. Have cut as much. Everybody could probably cut a little bit more every day. But on the fiscal court side of it, but it takes a lot to operate. I mean, that's just the way it is. We got to buy the tires when the snow hits and the ice and salt. We used $80-something thousand worth of salt this year, first time in I don't know how many years. Salt went up $21 a ton for this next year. Luckily, we got it filled up before that. That's just an example. Same way with you guys.
I was over here looking like with scurrying to find some information because it's great you say that. At our annual meeting in June, Tim in his address to
Tim me?
Oh no, Tim Sharp, our CEO, not Tim Sharp in his address before the annual meeting started to our members. He highlighted that as well. As always, we're trying to provide safe, reliable, and affordable power. And in the industry, there's a lot of upward pressure on stuff. You look at equipment in the last 3 years. I was trying to find the number. Poles. The price of poles has gone up 60%. Primary wire 43%, and then the price of transformers, depending on what types, is almost over 103% increase in the last couple of years. And so everywhere is facing that. Even electric utilities like Salt River Electric. But we're still trying to, like you said earlier, stretch that dollar as much as we can to make sure our members are still getting a good value for electricity.
I'm gonna see a picture in that book you was talking about. I'm gonna see if it tears. I'm gonna see if it tears in the middle when you stretch it.
The thing that gets me about, and you mentioned salt, and of course with the snow and ice, our products, like poles that you mentioned,
Oh,
wire.
yeah.
They're like, we've gone through some really bad weather-related damages and then you have to, your linemen and people don't work for free.
Oh no, yeah.
But it's amazing that you have to be prepared for that financially and structurally with people and replacement parts and stuff.
Making sure you have all your stuff that you need in inventory, plenty of it, and you talked earlier, Judge, about, the leadership, and I'd take that back to our leadership. We have, as he said, a very, very strong board of directors that is always concerned about making sure that our members are taken care of and that we're prepared for when anything hits. We always have a plan. We try to have a plan in place. You think you got a plan in place until something happens, but but resiliency. Our group is very resilient, and I take this past January, and we had that winter storm come through. We had a lot of outages. It was a multi-day event. Had a lot of what we call mutual aid from other co-ops around the state come in to try to help us, and. But our group was prepared. When things started happening and it started settling down, it was all right. Now I need you to go here and here and here, and let's go figure out what's going on over here. It's all the way up to if. I wish people could have the chance to see Tim Sharp in dispatch sometimes during those outage modes. Man, he is laser focused and he does a great job at it. But him and it trickles all the way down through the company. We've got great people in great positions to take care of that stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess I got to ask a question.
Yeah.
I've always wondered. You mentioned mutual aid. Mm-hmm. People come here to help us out. Mm-hmm. We go other places. Who pays those people?
They figure that out afterwards. So usually they'll go and they'll send invoices out and so on and so forth. Because you're all right. They do have to be paid, making sure they're taken care of. But more than that, I take that as an aside. When things happen, and I take last year in September when those hurricanes hit, North Carolina and into Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
When that happened, our statewide association is great at the moment those disasters happen. They start calling around going, okay, let's get some crews together. Can you, as long as you all are okay there, we had some damage from some straight line winds that came in, first take care of your members, but after that, are you able to go? And we did send crews out to down in Georgia. I have a note. I got to write an article about it here in a couple of months. It was great. Not great, but the fact of it was when we went down there, Jefferson Energy is where we went down to in Georgia, and when they got down there, they had 100% of their system was out of power. Everyone was out. And so the thought that got me was, you think about here at Salt River, it's taken 88 years to get to where we are. And could you imagine if in a weather event, everybody's out?
Imagine, no.
It took 88 years to build up to that point, but then you're expected within a week, 2 weeks, you got to get everybody back on. And so it really is, it takes a village to help out, and that's why mutual aid.
Really. I mean, you see how fast they get a lot of these people back up. I don't really see how they do it. I mean, they got to be very, very well prepared and planned. And back to the cost you said earlier, and of course, we've got, the state, but mainly the FEMA side come in, and in a lot of cases they can help and they get reimbursed. When the county, we had, when I first got elected in March, I think it was, we had those straight line winds. And by golly, they was pretty rough, and it took a lot of stuff down, and countywide, and all our people we had out, and we worked with Salt River, and I told Tim when I called him, can we help y'all with anything on our county workers, and had all this mutual aid come through, and we ended up applying for some FEMA money, and we received, I think it was, I don't know, a couple $100,000, but that really helps offset. Now this flooding we haven't got the, what I call the disaster declaration yet on the public side. We did on the individual side, but I know they're trying to streamline some of that on the federal government, and Secretary, what's her name, Noam, and you see what's going on down in, what is it down there they've got
Texas.
going with the Texas and all that going on. So, but I'll tell you firsthand what I can see with my people, and I think my group has done an excellent job in some of them, but there's way too much red tape, way too many meetings. You got to have a meeting to get to this meeting, this meeting. I'm going to tell you right now, I witnessed it firsthand, and my team knows how frustrated I am. I actually refused to go to the last meeting. I told them to get something done, and I'm not going anymore. And it's just to meet, to talk, and I'm telling you, it's very, very frustrating. So that whole division where you like Trump or you hate Trump, it don't make any difference to me. But that FEMA organization, and they was talking about trickling down to the states or the county, whatever they do to make it better has got to be done, because it is red tape if you've never seen in your life. And we got people calling these poor people in the flood. You just imagine what we've got here in Boston, and you get down in Texas and all that stuff. It's terrible. And the resources, you just don't have enough to go around. But hopefully, and then like I say, we do get some reimbursement monies from them. We have in the past. I don't know how the future's going to be. They're trying to restructure some of that, but it all helps, and we've got to streamline that and make it a lot simpler.
Yeah.
But we've got about 10 more minutes. Joe Hill's Power Sports, the sponsor of this talk show, and again, the reason we're having this every week is to get more information out to the public. I have different people come on from time to time, and just we talk about anything, and 348-2222, call or text. You got another text?
We have a text, and Zach, this one's to you.
All right.
It says, being a customer of Salt River, if there are tree limbs over the lines going from the transformer to my house, will Salt River take care of removing those? So
I actually was writing an article again the other day about this. Tree trimming is a big thing that people, it's a very visual thing for people who think, when they think about Salt River. Our tree crews, we have some great contractors out there that help with our right-of-way clearance and maintenance. As a distribution comp, we always focus mainly on making sure that those distribution lines are cleared first. You think about the three-phase lines that go down the highway or single phase. That's always our main focus. Now, when it comes to service wires like that go from your transformer to your house, it's always the responsibility of the member to get those taken care of and trimmed. Now, that being said, we always encourage them, call into the office, let us know about that, because we're always happy. We'll go and disconnect that service, lower it down. That way, when your tree crews get there to take care of it, they're safe, the area is safe, and everything's taken care of. So I would always encourage, for things like that, call our office and talk to our customer service representatives.
And you can call anytime, any day?
At 502-348-3931.
Okay. And that's 24 hours?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, people always wonder, what's my responsibility? I know people have had their, what they call service pole or whatever, been over on their house. That's the homeowner's problem.
And another plug for our August magazine. The article that I was writing for that will be coming up here in the August magazine. And it's not only tree trimming, but it's just letting people know about what is the homeowner's responsibility electrical system-wise versus what is the co-op's responsibility when the electrical system. Because that's very important to understand. When we get into those situations of outage restoration, somebody might call in and say, well, I've got an outage in my house. Well, their riser that comes, from the meter down, that it might have fallen down. And in that case, they're going to have to go, and we'll have to disconnect it for repair and have an electrician come out, and they'll have to have them take care of that.
And one thing about on that particular subject is, I'm going to say over the last, 20 or 30 years especially, and all the new ones coming up, mainly, in most cases, they go underground and to the house. And as the developments go in and the new homes being built, I'm going to be pretty apt to say about 99% of them going forward is underground.
Now, you see a lot of underground services to homes nowadays, and even then, when you talk about your underground service, we will maintain that service wire that goes from that transformer underground to your house, and the conduit is the responsibility of the member as well. But with the conduit they have nowadays, it's not like some of them they had back in the early 80s or anything like that. This is, should last you a long time. You don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah. Call 811 before you dig, right?
Absolutely. Always call 811. Always.
You haven't had any experience with that, have you?
No, I haven't. I put an underground fence for my dog one time.
Well, I have.
Oh, you have?
I learned the hard way. Well, I did a lot of different developments and helping people, so I'll tell you this one story. I was helping a friend of mine, and he had a big field, and it was in a development, and he didn't have any help, and I had one of my guys free. We had a big bush hog. He said, can you go down there and clean that up for me? I said, yeah, we'll take care of it. I'll help you out. I don't even think I got a penny for it. He may pay for the fuel, which I doubt. Nothing in there. Well, he hit a damn transformer box. And I mean wires flying everywhere. So,
oh, boy.
Not just any kind of transformer box.
Yeah,
you described it. Okay, no more.
Yeah. So anyway, it's best to, it's like I say, it's best to, there's a lot of underground utilities and gas lines and fiber lines nowadays, and it's best to definitely get them marked.
811, we'll remind you.
Absolutely.
And they say it's the law.
Yeah. Real quick, as we're wrapping, so Zach, when do we get the issue of the Best of Kentucky?
So Best of Kentucky. So that will be announced next month. So that will be live streamed on the Facebook page and YouTube of Kentucky Living. So if people go and do that, it'll be during State Fair Week. So usually they'll go and they'll have everybody come up there and get their photos and so on and so forth. So I'm very excited about that.
Judge, there's all kinds of things going on right up in the old courthouse, the visitor center.
Oh yeah, I was up there before I came here and had to do a walkthrough on some changes we had to make. There's always changes you make, when you're doing something, and you got a lot of that historic, that terrazzo flooring, and then when you move these counters and things around, and you look down and there's no floor underneath of it, and so we had to try to make some decisions about, trying to save what we can save, the historic side of it, and so we had a meeting up there again today, and it's moving good, but man, they've tore out a lot of stuff. You just don't realize, especially you get up in that big attic, all the heat in there, and them old boilers and units, and golly, but they really moving. They're doing a good job.
Good. Well, I noticed they had.
Why you got to bring it up every time? Like they don't hear. What you say, the big elephant in the room?
I was looking for just an update because it's not one of those out of sight, out of mind things. You can't miss it.
Oh, really? It's had to be right in the middle of town. But they're doing a good job, and so we'll get there.
You have a meeting, and I don't have my back turned to you out of being whatever. You have a meeting tonight, 6 o'clock, in location.
We moved the location. All the fiscal court meetings are now at the library, and until further notice. And we have the, Terry Gohagen's old office across from the clerk is where my office and my staff is. The tourism is in behind the Hearst Drugs. They got that visitor center there. And then you have the chamber and some of that group and codes down at the career center. So we're getting there, and hope everybody has patience, and we'll get this thing finished, and it'll be a lot better and more accessible, and it's going to be a lot better when we get it all done. So the downtown part of it's kind of an eyesore right now. There's no doubt about it, but it's like building a new road. You got to bear through it when you go through all these changes, but. My office, 348-1800, anybody can call, and I encourage them to call anytime there's a limb or there's, they say who to call. I tell everybody to call. I don't care if it's state road, county road, city road, whatever. It don't bother me. We'll take the calls, and we'll send them to the right people. Potholes, anything danger, trees falling on the road, anything. And I'd rather know, and it's not a complaint. I want to know about it, so we try to disperse it to the right people and help to make a safer place for the community. So we got a lot going on in this fiscal court meeting tonight. Like I say, it's 6 o'clock at the library, and that'll be all of our meetings will be moved there, and we've got a lot on the agenda tonight. So anybody wants to come, but 348-1800. Thanks to Joe Hills Power Sports for sponsoring this show. Thanks to Salt River and Zach Epperson filling in for Mr. Tim Sharp, and for having you on.
I'll see if I can wrangle him next time we'll come in here.
Well, that's our show for today. We appreciate you listening, and if you miss it or you want somebody else to hear it, just to remember, it'll be up on the Nelson County's Facebook page. It'll be up on WBRT and Nelson County Gazette's Facebook page probably later this week.
Yeah, thank you, Ross.
You're welcome.